After other countries have had this figure for months now, the United States finally got the Black Series 212th Clone Trooper. The reason why it took so long is because for some reason in the United States they think it's cool to have exclusive action figures to a drugstore. I don't understand either. But yeah, Walgreens exclusives have been an issue for a while. And this is just another one that I had to deal with. I actually did manage to find one on my own, which is great. Unfortunately, I still need another one because I want to keep one in the box. But I'm still happy I at least have one. I found one. I at least, have the one. But I'm grateful I found it, even though I checked like 7 Walgreens and I only found it at the second one I checked. It's whatever. It's actually funny. I know the guy that worked at the Walgreens I found this at. I walked in and I'm like, "Hey man, I'm coming looking for exclusive Star Wars stuff." And he's like, "Oh, the only one I saw back there was a Clone Trooper." And I'm like, "Ooh, that's the one I need," because he's pretty familiar with figure collecting too. But yeah, it's pretty great. It's a pretty great figure for what it is. It's a repaint of, the new clone mold as a 212th. It looks clean, it looks crisp. It's pretty great for what it is. If you don't like the new mold, then you're probably not going to like this one too much. But overall, it's not bad. It's not bad. I do have to point out one thing right away, and I have to preface this with I don't know if this is on all of the figures. I don't know if this is accurate to the Clone Wars, or if this is just an error on Hasbro's part. But on his head, the orange triangle ends halfway through. I at least know in the cinematic version of 212 Troopers, that is not the case. But for all I know, in the Clone Wars, it ends halfway down, like an old Lego minifigure. For all I know, that's how it is. But honestly, I'm not really sure. I can't really say I'm a hyper fan of the Clone Wars cartoon. I don't study the armor from the cartoon. I mostly look at the movie version because I prefer the movies. But yeah, let's just get the comparison right out of the way. We already had a 212th, and they came with the Order 66 set. And that's a custom Commander Cody hologram I got sent in the P.O. box. I like having him with it. But yeah, you can see there's definitely some differences. I still prefer the look of the old mold in general. Even though I do like the new helmet sculpt, especially since they fixed it and didn't have it all warped and gross, I do like the new helmet sculpt. But, number one, still doesn't have the black brow, at least on this version. They did it on the Jet Trooper, but they're still going with the animated look without the black brow, and it just looks kind of gross. Number two, I just don't think it's as good looking as the old one. My opinion kind of changes. It's still a nice looking helmet. It still looks pretty nice, but it's it's like comparing it. I just feel like that captures the film version of the 212th a lot better than that does. It still just looks a lot like the cartoon, and I mean, if they want to make animated figures, that's fine, but it's kind of an odd mesh between realistic and animated. The body's still kind of scrawny, the shoulder pads are still kind of small. It's all the same issues. We've had this new mold for, like a year and a half or 2 years now. We've had it for quite a while. What was the first figure that had it? It was the Camino. It's the Camino Trooper. He was the first one that had it. We've had a lot of figures in this mold already, haven't we? We've had the Camino, the Shock, 332nd, this one, the Phase 1. Wow, and the Elite Squad Trooper. We've had a decent amount with this new body. That's pretty surprising. That is definitely interesting. Wasn't the Elite Squad like an amalgamation? I think he was an amalgamation, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he had some old figure parts. Anyways, it's definitely odd seeing this comparison. The old one obviously has a lot more battle damage, a lot more paint. It's very clearly based off of Revenge of the Sith, but the new one is more the Clone Wars animation, which is fine, but it's still odd to me that they continue to do that. But still, it's another 212th. I mean, I'll take it. It's a 212th. It's Cody's boy. The figure itself, it just comes with the DC-15 carbine. That's pretty underwhelming. Normally we expect at least 2 weapons, but I guess Hasbro's like, you don't really need to have 2 anymore. What's the point? We're just gonna cheap out. We're just gonna cheap out, because we know. Pretend I still have the gun. We're just gonna cheap out because we know that you'll buy our stuff. No matter how expensive, no matter how cheap, you know you'll still buy it. But yeah, his gun fell. I'm not gonna grab it. But yeah, that's his only accessory. Articulation is the same as all of the new mold clone troopers. He's got that butterfly. He's got the elbow. He's got the elbow. He's got that wrist. You know, he's got that body that does that. He's got that head that does that. He still has the unpainted Tamora Morrison head underneath. He's got those legs that do that. You know, it's pretty standard. He's got a funny knee. His ankles, though, it never ceases to amaze me that weird ankles on this mold, because they're just so clicky and so tight. Like, I don't know what Hasbro's obsession is with all these clicky joints. Like, why does it need to have these big old detents in it? I don't understand, especially on the ankles. It makes them kind of hard to stand sometimes. But overall, you know, pretty decent figure. It's the new mold, but it's colored like the 212. You can see the coloring is pretty simple. Was that like a little bit of plastic on my hand now? A little bit of black plastic, I guess, when I was cranking at the joints. But you can see it's pretty basic. There are like some chips away at the paint where it's kind of representing some wear and tear, which is pretty neat. It's not everywhere though. Some are like, his knee pads are super crisp. Front of his body, pretty crisp. But you can see there's a couple spots here and there, like a little nick right there. A couple nicks on the helmet. Overall, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool figure, you know. The new mold is very posable and very fun. It's a fun figure, but it just doesn't look as good on most levels, in my opinion. I do prefer the amalgamation, like the Jet Trooper. I think that's one of the best forms of it, especially since they feel compelled to totally change out the helmet, even though they are continuing to use the old style with the Archive 500 first, which I find kind of funny. Because they could have just released something like this, but 500 first, you know, but it's whatever. I do know there is like a bootleg version of this that is available from like AliExpress. I might buy it at some point, but I'm not really sure when. It's because like those knockoffs, they're still charging like $20 each. It's ridiculous. But yeah, let's have our 212th boys and Cody right in the middle. He dropped his gun too. This Cody, it's still to this day one of my most disappointing Black Series figures, because dude, it's missing so much it should have had, like that. Why didn't it come with that? But yeah, it's pretty neat. The 212th Army has a little bit of an addition to it. I definitely dig it. The orange is a little brighter on this. I feel like it's more kind of springy, a little more vibrant, but still, I think they go together really well. It's obviously not a perfect match with the other trooper, but honestly, just seeing two troopers flanking my Cody, I'm pretty happy with it. I recommend it if you have the old 212th and you're not worried about having duplicates of the same kind of trooper. In my opinion, it's an easy pass. In my opinion. I prefer the old mold. I prefer the old 212th figure. It's just the one I prefer. But if you prefer the new mold, if you want the more kind of animated style, if you want to maybe bolster your 212th ranks, because good luck ever getting more of that one, then yeah, it's not a bad option. It is more available in other places that actually had the sense to make this exclusive to places that actually sell collectibles. But in the US, it being a Walgreens exclusive means that there is no online outlet to really get it or pre-order it or order it. You have to just hunt Walgreens, a store that is notorious for carrying figures as old as like 7 years plus, which is wild. A lot of people hunt for this and they're like, oh yeah, all I'm seeing is Force Awakens Rey and Finn from 2015. Oh, yeah, man, it's a wild one. I do recommend it though, if it seems like something you want. If you like clone troopers like me, go for it, man. It's no big deal. One thing I want to point out though, this is not related to this figure whatsoever. Someone in the comments actually pointed this out to me. If you'll notice on Commander Cody, he's kind of got like this bow-leggedness to his leg right there. And everyone's been wondering, well, why do they swap the legs on a lot of the new clone troopers? It's because Hasbro did it to resolve this bow-leggedness, apparently, without having to make any modification to the sculpt. They just assemble it differently. Isn't that so odd? I mean, it works. It does resolve the bow-leggedness, but also it leaves it not correct. I don't know. I need to look at a lot of my pre-misassembled clone troopers and see how many of them are bow-legged. Because I know this Cody definitely is. Man, these old Black Series clones, like, it's very matte plastic, and for some reason they're always very easily stained. I don't know how. Like, you can see there's like these little swirls in the plastic. Like, how does that even happen? It's like I wash my hands all the time, and it's not just mine too. I've seen other copies, but especially on the new ones. It started with figures like that, with the Order 66 set. You can see the plastic's all nice and glossy. It's very nice sheen to it. But yeah, overall, I'd recommend it. You know, if it seems like something you want, it's another 212. But if you already have the old one, if you're not really worried about an upgrade, I wouldn't really bother. Alrighty, guys, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Special shout out to the patrons of Patreon. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Alrighty, guys, there we go. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.